Omi spends most of Xiaolin Showdown acting like the monk most likely to lead the team, which makes one later image feel completely wrong, him standing beside Chase Young and fighting his own friends. But Omi does not simply wake up one day and choose evil. His fall grows out of the same traits that define him from the beginning: talent, certainty, pride, and a habit of deciding he can handle problems nobody else should touch. Across 3 seasons, those traits take him from the temple's most experienced young monk to Shaolin apprentice, Would-I warrior, Chase's chosen target, and eventually someone willing to rewrite history itself. To see how he gets there, you have to start before the others even arrive. Omi already lives at the Xiaolin Temple when Raimundo, Kimiko, and Clay are recruited, so his confidence is not completely baseless. He has more training, understands the temple better, and immediately treats the newcomers like beginners who need to catch up. When Jack Spicer gets the Mantis flip coin, Omi is quick to blame them, but he also proves why he thinks he is ahead by winning the first Xiaolin Showdown against Jack for the Eye of Dashi. The problem is that Omi keeps turning a real head start into proof that his judgment must also be better. In Ring of the Nine Dragons, he ignores Master Feng's warning and uses the ring to split himself into multiple copies, assuming several Omis have to be more useful than one. Instead, the ring divides his qualities between the copies, including his intelligence, leaving the team with several incomplete versions of the same overconfident monk. It is an early joke, but also one of the cleanest previews of Omi's recurring mistake. If one version of his idea seems good, more of it must be better. New York briefly gives him a different kind of relationship. Omi meets Germain and becomes friends with someone who is outside the temple hierarchy entirely. Germain is not another dragon to measure himself against yet. He is simply a friend. That changes later, once ranks start becoming real. The first major promotion comes after the fight with Mala Mala Zhong. Omi uses the Golden Tiger Claws to reach the heart of Zhong and remove the piece holding the creature together, and after the victory, Master Feng promotes Omi, Kimiko, and Clay to Shaolin Apprentice. Raimundo is left behind. That gap becomes important immediately. As an apprentice, Omi can combine his water ability with Shengong Wu, such as the Orb of Tornami, turning water into ice instead of just throwing it around. Raimundo, meanwhile, is the only one without the promotion, and Omi's attempts to encourage him often sound more like reminders that he is still behind. That is not the sole reason Raimundo eventually sides with Wuya, but it adds to the humiliation already pushing him away from the team. Raimundo makes the choice himself and helps restore Wuya's physical body. Fixing that disaster requires one of Omi's strangest successful plans. He travels roughly 1,500 years into the past, meets Grandmaster Dashi, and gets a new puzzle box capable of sealing Wuya. The problem is that Jack's time machine cannot bring him back. Omi solves that by using the Orb of Tornami to freeze himself and simply waiting for history to catch up with him. Somehow, it works. When Omi returns, though, the hierarchy he relied on is already changing. Raimundo eventually proves he can control wind at apprentice level and is promoted, putting all 4 dragons on equal footing. For Omi, that removes the easiest argument for why he should naturally sit above Raimundo. Around the same period, the series gives one of the few firm facts about Omi's past. When Dojo pretends to be his mother, Omi immediately rejects the claim because he is an orphan. The show does not name his parents, does not explain who brought him to the temple, and does not reveal a secret bloodline behind his abilities. Time also starts becoming part of Omi's story again. In the Sands of Time, an elderly Omi appears from a possible future and warns the team about what might happen. That future is not guaranteed biography, it is one altered possibility. What matters more is that Omi now knows history can be revisited, and that knowledge will matter much later. Then Chase Young arrives. Unlike Jack or Wuya, Chase is less interested in collecting Shengong Wu for their own sake than in identifying useful people. He watches Omi, fights him, and recognizes his potential. Before Chase, most of Omi's pride creates problems by accident. From this point on, somebody dangerous is paying attention to it on purpose. By the year of the Green Monkey, Chase is already talking about one monk he wants on his side, and the episodes that follow make it clear that Monk is Omi. Chase is interested because Omi is not weak. He is interested because Omi could eventually become strong enough to threaten him. Omi also proves he does not need magical corruption to make questionable decisions around Chase. In The New Order, he secretly releases Chase because he believes Chase is necessary against a larger threat. No spell forces the choice. Omi simply decides his judgment is better than the safer option and acts without the team. Germain's return hits the same weakness from another direction. Omi expects to teach his old friend, only to discover Germain has already reached Wudai warrior rank. The kid Omi once helped is now technically ahead of him. Omi becomes jealous and competitive, and Chase exploits that tension. Omi eventually recognizes the jealousy, but the episode shows how deeply rank still affects his sense of where he belongs. Dangerous Minds pushes the relationship with Chase even further. Omi and Chase cooperate, using the Fountain of Hui together with the Eagle Scope to search for specific information. Omi believes he learns a way to destroy evil, but the reversing mirror has secretly flipped the answer. He walks away trusting information that is literally backwards. Chase now has the pattern. Omi is brave, talented, and eager to prove that when everyone else hesitates, he is the one who can make the right call. That pressure finally breaks him in judging Omi. Master Feng announces that one monk will advance toward Wudai warrior, and Omi assumes the choice has to be him. Chase finally explains why Omi matters so much. Omi has the potential to become strong enough to defeat him one day, so Chase wants him turned or removed before that happens. When Master Feng becomes trapped in the Ying-Yang World, Omi goes in after him. The rescue works, but Omi leaves without the correct complete yo-yo setup, and his good chi remains behind. What comes back still looks and fights like Omi, but his morality has been stripped away. That is why his fall is fundamentally different from Raimundo's earlier betrayal. Raimundo chose wuya while angry and humiliated. Omi's initial shift toward Chase is caused by a supernatural change to who he is. His friends eventually recover the missing good chi in saving Omi, and the effect is immediate. Omi becomes himself again and is horrified by how he treated them, but he still stays with Chase. This time, the decision is voluntary. Chase reminds him that the corrupted version of Omi swore loyalty, and restored Omi decides that his word still counts. It is an almost painfully inconvenient example of his sense of honor. The same rigid morality that makes him Xiaolin now keeps him beside a Heilun villain. The team finally wins Omi's freedom in finding Omi by risking their own loyalty in a showdown against Chase. Once he is free, Omi apologizes and even questions whether he deserves to remain a Shaolin monk after everything he has done. After all of that, Master Feng promotes Omi, Kimiko, Clay, and Raimundo together to Wudai warrior. Omi has returned to the Xiaolin side, but for the first time one of his biggest advancements belongs equally to all four. Becoming Wudai solves the rank problem for a while, but not the older question of who Omi actually is. Hannibal Roy Bean makes that uncertainty more dangerous because he is the same villain who once exploited young Chase's desire to become the greatest. Omi is later tricked into helping free Hannibal as well. The two characters are not identical, but the pattern is uncomfortable. Both are gifted Shaolin warriors whose pride gives a smarter villain something to grab onto. Chase accepts that path permanently. Omi keeps finding his way back. That becomes personal in Omi Town. Omi goes looking for his family and seems to find everything he has been missing. Relatives, a hometown, even apparent parents. None of it is real. Jack and Hannibal have used the Moby Morpher to disguise robots as Omi's supposed family. The reveal leaves his biological mystery exactly where it started. The original series never identifies Omi's mother or father, and never explains how he came to the temple. What Omi does get is an answer about belonging. Master Feng makes him recognize that the monks he has trained, fought, argued, and grown beside are already his family, even if his blood relatives remain unknown. The series answers where Omi belongs without ever answering where he came from. That question returns directly in Wu Got the Power. Master Feng introduces elemental Shen Gong Wu tied to each Wudai warrior and makes it clear that mastering them helps determine the future leader. Omi receives the Kaijin charm and combines it with his Wudai water technique successfully. Then Hannibal turns the lesson into a competition. If mastering his own element proves Omi is qualified, Omi decides mastering everyone else's should prove even more. He takes the other warrior's elemental Wu and tries to control all four powers himself. It is the Ring of the Nine Dragons mistake returning at a much higher level. Early Omi thought several versions of himself had to be better than one. Now he applies the same logic to power. One mastered element is impressive, so four must make him impossible to overlook. The joke from early in the series has become a leadership problem with much larger consequences. His final test is bigger than any duel. Before Master Feng chooses a leader, each dragon is allowed a final quest, and Omi decides to go back in time and stop Chase Young from ever becoming evil. To reach the sands of time which have been hidden in the future, Omi repeats the trick that once carried him through 1500 years. He freezes himself and waits. The first time he used that plan, disappearing into ice saved the present. This time the same solution helps create a disaster. Roughly 80 years later, he wakes in a future where his absence helped leave the world open for Jack Spicer to take control. Omi gets the sands anyway and travels into the past, where he prevents Chase from drinking the Lao Mang Lone soup. The result is not the clean rescue he expected. Chase remains good, but Master Monk Guan becomes corrupted instead. Omi has succeeded at changing Chase, yet the world has simply rearranged the damage around him. That is the real limit of the plan. Time travel can change an event, but Omi cannot guarantee every consequence that grows out of it. Contact with his frozen counterpart eventually creates the paradox that restores the original timeline. There is also a fitting reversal buried inside that final mission. Chase spent much of the series trying to reshape Omi into someone who could stand beside him. Omi ends their story by going 1,500 years into the past and trying to reshape Chase instead. Neither of them can make the other person's history as simple as they want it to be. Then comes the answer Omi has spent almost the entire series expecting. Master Feng names Raimundo the Shoku warrior and leader of the team. Omi is disappointed, but he does not walk away, challenge the decision, or repeat Raimundo's old betrayal. He accepts the result and keeps fighting beside the others. By the end of the original series, Omi is still the Dragon of Water, still a Wudai warrior, still capable of advanced water and ice techniques, and still one of the strongest members of the group. His biological parents remain unknown, and he never becomes Shoku. That is the real shape of Omi's story. His power keeps rising, but the series keeps separating strength from judgment, rank from maturity, and talent from leadership. The boy who begins by acting like he should naturally stand ahead of everyone ends with Raimundo in front of the team and Omi beside him, charging into the final Xiaolin vs. Heilin fight as the Wudai Dragon of Water.